Today's lesson is about recognizing illusions. Now, before we can recognize an illusion, we need to know exactly what an illusion is. So, an illusion is a reference, but is not a reference made directly. It is a reference to an external context, but it's a casual reference. It is an incidental reference or mention, and it is done indirectly or by implication. The moment the reference is made directly to the external context, it is called a reference. But the moment it's indirect and the viewer or the reader must make the direct connection, it is called an allusion with an A. So we refer or we allude to an object or a circumstance from an unrelated context. So understand, you have your text here, and within this text you refer to another object or incident from mythology or from any other text, and it's an unrelated text, and that is an illusion. Remember that it's left up to the audience to make the connection. An indirect reference. Now, the Bible, ancient legend, mythology, those are fertile grounds for finding references. And I'm very sure that you must have heard some of these allusions made in texts, visual texts, written texts in your literature books. So let's just check if you can remember some of these. You must have seen them before. If we look, for instance, at Odysseus, right? He was who? He was the legendary Greek king who went on a 10-year voyage, also called Ulysses. Then, if we look at Achilles, you've all heard about the Achilles heel. Who would he be? Okay, he would be the one with the heel, right? We talk about the Achilles heel. He's a warrior who was invulnerable except for the fact that he had a weak heel. If you wanted to get to him, you had to get to his heel. If you look at Nike, let's look at Nike. She was, of course, the goddess. Not that one. She was a goddess of victory, right? If you think of the Nike logo, the swoosh logo, it comes from the goddess of victory, and it resembles her wing. If you look at the aegis, of course, that is the breastplate. It's a breastplate that was protective. If you look at Nemesis, you meet your nemesis, and of course that is the goddess of retribution. If you look at Pandora, we associate it with box, and of course that is the magic box that Pandora got, and it had all the evils of the world in it. Then if you look at Oedipus, very, very commonly referred to, and that is of course the, let's find him quickly, the king who killed his father, married his mother, and he did it without knowing that they were his father and mother. Right, also ancient myths, legends that these come from. Those are just to start with. Let us have a look at these specifically, a few of them. Now, we say that we meet our nemesis. I've used the nemesis because that's plural for nemesis. Nemesis, of course, was the goddess that's referred to. If you talk about it in singular, it is you meet your nemesis, right? It comes from ancient Greek religion. It refers to a winged goddess. Look at the wings, the winged goddess. She has a whip, usually has a whip in her hand. In this case, on the picture, she has a sword or a dagger, right? She has a whip or a dagger, and she is the goddess of divine retribution. She's going to get to you. And we say that we meet our nemesis when we talk about someone, she would be going for those people who are guilty of hubris, in other words, of arrogance before the gods, that they were too proud, they thought too much about themselves, and then she would, of course, come and be the goddess of retribution, finding them out. She's also the balancer of life. She's also called the dark-faced daughter of justice. There's a lot of fear around Nemesis. If we use this expression very often, we say he finally had to face his nemesis. And that by that we mean, in modern times, we mean you meet your long-standing arch enemy, your inescapable agent of downfall. He's going to cause your downfall. Sounds very tragic, and it actually has lots of tragic connotations. And you'll also find a lot of this in the tragedies. To give you a practical example, Macduff in Macbeth is actually Macbeth's nemesis. Why do we say so? The witches foretold that he would be killed by Macduff eventually, and therefore he tried to keep out of Macduff's way. And then when finally he meets him beard to beard or sword to sword, he says to him, "Of all men else, I have avoided thee." So he knew that this was the man, his nemesis, the one that he would not be able to escape. Look at the sword, and you can just see that once you reach your nemesis, you know it's your end. It really is your end. So another one is Pandora's box. In ancient Greek mythology, Pandora actually didn't carry a box, or didn't get a box as a present. She got a jar as a present. And this jar contained all the evils of the world. So Pandora, of course, looked at this jar. She was given this jar to look after, and she was inquisitive. She wanted to open the jar. And of course, she opened the jar like all inquisitive people would have done, and out came all the evils in the world. And it had sickness, it had death, it had other evils. All the other evils came flying out. And she hastily wanted to close this jar. And the only one thing that was left in the jar was hope. And so when the other evils were released into the world, and the only thing left was hope, which in a way is a deceptive expectation. In a way, depending on how you look at hope, can also be a kind of evil. But that remained hope, which is a deceptive expectation, right? So this is then Pandora's box. Today, when we talk about Pandora's box, we talk about any source of great and unexpected troubles. Also, a present, which seems valuable, but in reality is a curse. I don't know whether you have any relation to that kind of thing, but you can think about it. Then, of course, there's Nike. Actually beautiful. If you look at the wings of Nike, she's the goddess of victory, right? Look at her wings. See how it resembles the swoosh sign that was used as an inspiration. For the swoosh sign, the wings were used as an inspiration for it. So also, this comes from Greek mythology. She was the goddess of victory. You can almost see her looking very victorious there. Goddess of victory. And the Nike swoosh logo was designed and created by Carolyn Davidson in 1971. You can see I'm sorry about that. You can see the wings and the Nike swoosh resembling each other. Swoosh, of course, means that something moves swiftly past you. So it has to do with fast movement, fast motion, or fast speed, fast sound. So you can see how they wanted to associate these ideas with the Nike logo, that you'd be victorious and you'd be fast and successful. Then, of course, we have Oedipus. It comes from Greek mythology. There was a Greek myth about that, about the king of Thebes. He was a tragic hero. And then, of course, Sophocles used that myth in his classical drama, the classical tragedy called Oedipus Rex. It means Oedipus the king. And of course, in this drama, the protagonist accidentally fulfilled a prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother, which of course happened in the end. And that would bring disaster to both himself and to the whole city. Now, Oedipus's mother, the poor woman, when she discovered that she had killed her son, she hanged herself. And he, upon seeing that and upon realizing what he had done, took 2 pins from her clothes, from her dress, and he stabbed his own eyes out. Then, of course, this very same legend and the very same tragic drama about Oedipus killing his father, marrying his mother, has led Sigmund Freud, psychoanalyst, in 1899 to coin a phrase called the Oedipus complex. And it had to do with the subconscious wishes in children to possess their mothers and to kill their fathers. To possess their mothers sexually, that is, and to kill their fathers. And that is, for instance, all of these things are alluded to in Macbeth. Now, of course, Macbeth was written around 1600, and it's a long time before, but now modern scholars also sort of project the ancient myth to what Sigmund Freud had seen in the legend. And this is kind of what we call an indirect allusion. Because, the Oedipus complex did not exist as such in Shakespeare's time. But all of these things are based on the legend of Oedipus and how he's projected in Sophocles' drama. So, indirect allusion then, and you can see, for instance, this allusion to Oedipus in Macbeth, Act 2, Scene 2, where after the king's death, after the murder of the king, Macbeth cannot face the guilt that he's feeling, and he looks at his hands and he says, "What hands are here? Ha! They pluck out mine eyes." So you can see how that resembles the fact that Oedipus, because of his guilt, wanted to stab his own eyes out. Well, he actually did. In the legend and in the tragedy, he actually did stab his own eyes out. Now, this is some pretty thought-provoking stuff, and we hope to see you for our next lesson on illusions. Until then, bye.